People are still joining, and she's
Okay.
putting a live stream going.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Get Out the Vote event tonight, presented by the Baton Rouge Sigma chapter, the Baton Rouge Sigma alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated, along with the Alpha Tau chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and the Beta Sigma chapter of Omega Psi Phi, as well as Louisiana Black Women's Roundtable. We are happy to have you joining us this evening for this very, very important occasion. The title of our event tonight is We Are the Why, an engagement of the young voters' minds. We want to talk specifically, of course, about voting, but we want to really take some time and spend some time with our young voters and see, their thoughts about this election, how they're feeling, and really take a deeper dive. But as we do with all things in Delta, we will get started with prayer and then we will move into our program. Thank you again for joining us.
Good evening. My name is Donovan Johnson, and it's a pleasure to be with you all. Before we get into prayer, I do want to take a moment just to thank you for the invitation. And we're lifting up all of these organizations. I know you all do important work with so much more to do. And we're just praying that God's hand will continue to be on you all's efforts. I want to encourage you to hold on to hope. If you're anything like me, you're anxious, a little bit nervous about what is to come. And so I just want to encourage you. The Bible teaches us that God is the God of both righteousness and justice. And so his hand has always been on our people's lives, and that's not going to change. So whatever happens next week, know that God is for you and with you. So let me just pray very quickly with you and for you. I'm happy to do that. Let's pray together. Father in heaven, God, I thank you for being who you are. I thank you that you are all-knowing, all-powerful, God, that you are gracious, merciful, and loving. You are the God that promises to never leave us nor forsake us. God, that if we would draw close and near to you, that you would draw near to us. And I thank you for that. God, I thank you that you're perfect, that you are true. And in light of that, God, I know that I am imperfect and I'm unholy. And so, God, I just ask for the forgiveness of my sins. And even on behalf of all who's on this call, we've all fallen short of your glory. We've done things, said things, thought things that is contrary to both your will and your way. And so, God, we believing in your word this evening, that we would confess our sins, that you are faithful and just to forgive us of those sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And so we thank you for that. God, now I pray that you would be with this program this evening, be with the moderator, be with the panelists, be with the participants. God, we pray that you would, by your Holy Spirit, will give us wisdom and encouragement to uplift each other. Some of us, God, I have to be honest, we are nervous, we're a little bit anxious, but we are holding fast and true to your word, to be anxious for nothing, but in all things, God, we to give thanks, and with our prayers and supplications, make our requests known to you. And you promise to give us a peace that passes all understanding. And so, God, I pray now on behalf of so many people that are watching, who will watch later, God, that they will have the courage and the boldness to exchange nervousness and anxiety for your peace. And that peace will rule our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. So I pray now for hearts on this call and for minds, God, that they may be touched and comforted by your word. God, again, I just pray for everyone who's gathered here. Pray for all that they love. We lift up our country to you. We lift up leaders globally, nationally, and locally, God, and knowing that you are in control. And God, we're just praying to continue to lean and depend on you for all things. God, last but not least, I thank you for your son, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for our sins. And for all those who call on his name will be saved. And we have security in that. And so, God, I just pray that we will hold fast to our salvation, our faith, and our trust in you. And God, if I've asked you for too little, I pray now that you would do even bigger than what I've just asked you for. And we will be careful to give you all the praise and glory because it already belongs to you. It's in Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
And we thank you, Dr. Johnson, for joining us this evening. And Dr. Johnson, I'd be remiss if I didn't say he serves as the Dean of Students with Baton Rouge Community College, married to a beautiful soror. And so we are always thankful for her to allowing him to lend his gifts and talents to us. So thank you, Dr. Johnson, for joining us.
Yeah.
And now our president, Dr. Ernest Johnson, Dr. Ernest Singleton will give a warm welcome on behalf of our chapter. I do apologize, Sora. I got my Johnsons mixed up. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Ernest Singleton. I'm the president of the Baton Rouge Sigma Alumni Chapter, and I am excited to hear from this distinguished panel this evening. We look forward to engaging with you. We know that we are just over 1 week away from this historic election, but we also need to recognize that all elections are historic because we have the opportunity every time there's an election that comes through to make our voice heard and to put people in office or to make decisions based on what we believe should occur in our community. And I say that because just over the weekend, I was speaking with someone and she ran for office a few years ago and she lost by 1 vote.
Ooh.
1 vote. That is, let that sink in and think about how important that is, that if, 3 more people would have gone out that were on her side, she could have won. Because it was, that's all that she needed was just a few more votes. So it's just important, people will say, oh, my vote not going to count. My vote not going to count. Yes, your vote will count. So it's very important that you go out and vote. And I look forward to hearing from our panel, the Alpha Tau chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, Beta Sigma fraternity chapter of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, as well as Louisiana Black Women's Roundtable and other voices that may come up this evening. We look forward to hearing from you because we know that you are the why. You are the future of our country. And so it's important that you understand the importance of this historic election and that we are gathering those individuals out there so that we can definitely make that impact. And I look forward to engaging this evening. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. And we will move right into our program. I thought it was best that I allow the panel to introduce themselves. As we move into introductions, I will remind you that the chat is open and we will be monitoring the chat for questions. So if you have questions throughout, please make sure to place them in the chat and we'll make sure that they're addressed properly. Our guests tonight include our moderator, Mrs. Kelly Knighton-Huff. She is a dear, dear friend of mine. We are Xavier Rice, we're sorors. Most importantly, we are sisters. So I'm happy to have her. She is always fighting the good fight and keeping us all informed and in line. So happy to have her here with us this evening, serving as our moderator. We have Keturah Butler, who I met a couple of weeks ago doing some work with Ashanti in the Alpha Tau chapter in the voter registration drive and with Louisiana Black Women's Roundtable. Let me tell you this, anybody that comes out during the Southern football game and sets up and engages in voter registration and tailgating, all those things, coming from one event to the next just to help us, I'm automatically impressed. And I said, she's definitely going to be on this panel with her. So definitely happy to have her here with us. We have Miss Ashanti Gleason. Also, she serves as the president of the Alpha Tau chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I could not be more impressed with this young lady if I tried. She is absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. I cannot say anything else greater about her. And we also have Mr. Terran Blackwell, who also serves with us through the Beta Sigma chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So I will allow our guests to introduce themselves and then we will move quickly into our program. Thank you.
You want to go first, Keturah?
Keturah, yes.
Keturah, yes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Keturah Butler Reed. I'm just so excited to be here. As she's already stated, I've done a lot of work with Ashanti in the past in other capacities. So I'm really excited to be here. I am the state co-convener for the Louisiana Black Women's Roundtable. But we also have a sector for Black Youth Vote. And so I really like to make sure that we're getting our young people engaged I have a lot of background in doing work. I've been an organizer for about 7 years now. And so a lot of my activism actually started when I was a student on the Unsinkable Albany State University's campus and HBCU in Albany, Georgia. And so over the past few years, of course, working with organizations like NAACP, Black Women's Roundtable, Black Voters Matter, I've worked with them in the past as well. So I'm really excited. And even more recently, I have on my other hat, I have so many hats in this kind of work, but my other hat, I have recently got a new job with the National NAACP as a campaign and training manager. And so really focusing on that kind of work, and that explains my connection to Ashante, I guess, as well. So I'm really excited to be here. There's a lot of information that I think we're going to really get into with some of the backgrounds that I have. So I don't want to take too much time with my introduction, but thank you for having me.
Ashante, would you like to go?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashante K. Gleason. I'm a senior at Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I serve as the chapter president of the Alpha Tau chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Let's see. I'm trying to top Couture's intro real quick. I serve as the state president for the Louisiana Youth and College Division as well. Let's see. I'm also the Region 6 Youth Board member of the National Board of Directors for the NAACP. I have a deep passion. Couture knows this. Sora Dennis knows this. Everyone's going to learn this about me too. I have a deep passion for making sure that people in my age group, younger, and even younger than that, have a seat at the table to be able to make sure their voices are heard. And also a place to feel comfortable when it comes to things like civic engagement, and when it comes to things like democracy, feeling comfortable and safe enough to be able to advocate, as well as be a part of the change that they want to see. Yes, so that is me, and I'm gonna keep it short. And thank y'all. I'm excited to get.
All right. Taryn, can we have you introduce yourself? I know you're having a couple of technical difficulties over there, but we can go ahead and get you to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, sorry about that. My name is Taryn Blackwell, a senior at Southern University and member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated organization.
All right. And hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Knighton Huff. I am a political commentator, if you will, on social media mostly, but I have been politically aware and involved all my life. I had a thirst for knowing what was going on in politics since the age of 6, and much to my mother's dismay, I keep up with it avidly, been keeping up with it avidly since then. And I have decided in my social media to dedicate it towards getting voter engagement and civic awareness out there. I'm and raising the profile and getting more people involved and engaged in our government, because as an American citizen, our government is our own. We are the ones who run it. We are the ones who are in charge of it. And unless we participate, unless when we don't participate, we allow other people to have the say over us. So I am very adamant and very passionate about getting people out to the voting booth to have your voice heard, and also to push back against those who want to use the law to oppress people in this country. And we all know, we have all been faced with a certain party trying to oppress people who are not white, who are not straight, who are not cis hetero people, and who are not men. So we have work to do in this, not just in this political season and not just in this election, but every single year there is an election that affects your life. And so I have made it my job to try my best to arm and raise the flag to let people know it is time to get involved, because when you are not involved, someone else is making the decisions for you. And as we've all seen in this country, that is a dangerous game we do not want to play. So I'm going to go ahead and get started now. And just to let everyone know, if you have any questions, please feel free to put questions in the chat. We will take questions. If you have questions pertaining to what we're talking about immediately, go ahead and just put them in. You don't have to wait until like the last minute or the end of the session to put questions in the chat. All right, so I want to start off. There is a lawyer and a fantastic radio show host. Her name is Laurie Daniel Favors. And I saw a clip that she did on her show, which is on Sirius XM, the other day, where she had this wonderful description of what politics is. And she said, politics is the science of distributing resources, the good resources or the bad resources. And those resources will go to the haves and the have-nots. Politicians are the people who control the distribution of those resources. And guess what? We, me, you, and everyone else in our communities, we are the ones who control the politicians getting the job and having the ability to do those things. So what we need to understand in this country is that the people who do not want you to have power are voting. Those people show up at the voting booth every single time, whether it's a vote for dog catcher or president. They are at that voting booth making their voice heard because they want to make sure they are the ones in power, and they also want to stop you from having power. So you cannot stop these people if you do not participate. You cannot have control of your government and the laws that rule your life if you don't show up at the voting booth. And we've had so many people and so many different polls and so many different investigative reports about what's going on with the youth, and how is it that the youth don't pay attention to politics, and how is it that the youth aren't as involved in politics. And it's easy to say, well, they're concerned with other things. But on this panel tonight, I'd like to ask our panelists if we can go a little deeper and ask the question, why? Why do you think that younger people are not interested in politics at this time? Is it because, politics isn't sexy and fun and messy like the reality shows? Like, I know, a lot of people have been watching that Love is Blind show and all the mess that's been going on with that. So what I would like to impart on everyone and let you know is that politics is messy. It's a lot of mess, and it's a lot of good, juicy gossip going on in the political realm. But only the people who are tuned into politics actually know about it. We just had a senator who's been indicted for accepting all kinds of money, and they found gold bars in this man's closet earlier this year. But a lot of people don't know about it. So like I said, why is it that young people are not engaged with politics? Is it because they just, it's not sexy to them, it's not fun? Or is it a lack of knowledge of how our politics run and how it feels a little too overwhelming to catch up? Like, just because you don't know what the three branches are, you feel like you shouldn't have a say in it. So is it that? Or is it just that maybe the youth have an overconfidence and think they know what politics is all about, and they think just because they're signing these online petitions and showing up every 4 years at the voting booth, do they think that's what politics is all about? So you guys can take turns and say what you think is why you think younger people are not as involved in politics as they should be.
Should I
Okay.
go first or should?
Go ahead.
Whoever wants to go. Yeah, whoever turns off their mute first can go.
All right, I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
Like you said, I think politics is one of the most messiest things I've ever witnessed in my entire life. And I've been a huge fan of Real Housewives and Love and Hip Hop. All the things in politics is the most messiest.
It eclipses it.
Period.
Like, it eclipses all the mess.
Real. And I think that it's so messy because it's real. The issues that they are discussing, the issues that our elected officials are making, the decisions that they are making it has a lot of passion in it because these are real people, real lives. And so I think that it is one of those things where if only people kind of saw, like, I'm like, man, go to a council meeting and look at the shade, catch the shade.
Yes.
When we think about moments like Jasmine Crockett, y'all know the bad built
blonde, bad built Bush body.
the alliteration, like who makes this stuff? So it's like even those things, really, if people were to really even pay attention to that, I think that they would, if they got a little more involved in that process. But I think at its root as well, as organizers, I like to take the responsibility of understanding my role in connecting the dots. And so, like, a lot of times we don't understand our power, and even sometimes there's a lack of that intergenerational transference of knowledge. When like Michelle mentioned, I met her supporting Ashante, and that to me is what needs to be happening, and that's the disconnect as well. So it's like we have people who have been doing this work for forever. Our grandparents, they did all these things for us. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams, but we're not connecting with them through the people who are the closest to, the things that we're just now seeing and just now being able to attain. So I think that that's an issue. And when it comes to issues that we're concerned about, we're not helping people realize, okay, that's on the ballot, or okay, you can go to the city council meetings and offer testimony. You can bring about 50 people, and what they're gonna tell y'all no. Or okay,
Right.
next time we're gonna get you out of office because you didn't go, you didn't serve the people with your decisions. So it's so many different ways that we can engage that we're not, because there are a whole bunch of dots and a whole bunch of silos of people operating, not just different generations, but also organizations not connecting with each other. And so that's why it's so important. We have a Black man on the call, but it's Black women leading and Black men leading. And that is important. This idea of representation through different generations. I love that you all are working with the young people to do this, because that is what that's what a lot of people aren't doing. And so we can get more people to do that all across the state, all across the country, then we would be so much better off. With getting young people involved. They have to, see it, and it has to connect for them in order for them to get involved in this process.
Okay, so Keturah, what I'm hearing you say is that the intergenerational connection is what could be one of the things to pull the youth into being involved. So to everyone who is no longer a youth, that is a clarion call to you. Reach back and pull some youth forward. And it's also a call to the youth to ask questions of those people who are a little older than you. Just like you said, you were supporting Ashante in something. That youth, you have to ask for help as well. Ask for help in understanding what's going on in these politics, so that people who have been down the road that you're traveling can reach back and help you get on through. All right, Taryn, you were going to say something? Oh, I think you're still on mute.
Yes,
Okay,
sorry. I was going to say, yes, I agree with what she said, but I also think one of the main reasons that young people aren't voting is they don't think their vote is really important. They don't think that their voice is really going to make a difference. And then half the time they don't really know what they're voting for. Yes, they're told who to vote for by the older generation, but they're not really understanding what's really going on behind the scenes. Like, what are these parties going for? What's going to change for me with my vote in my community?
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Taryn. Do you think that there's maybe like a distrust from people about politics, like maybe a distrust from your generation about politicians? Because I heard you say, they know who to vote for, and because the older generation is telling you. Do you think that maybe some people just don't trust what they're being told? This technology is going to be the end of us all. I swear.
Oh,
There we
sorry.
go.
So sorry.
No, you're fine.
And do you mean by the older generation or the politicians?
Well, older generation like us, like I know that a lot of young people, I'll just talk about my personal experience. People will say, "Oh, you're a Democrat shill. Oh, you've been bamboozled by the man and you don't understand what's going on," all those kinds of things. And so they don't trust when we're saying, "Hey, you need to go out and vote for this person or that person," because they think we've been bamboozled and we don't know what we're talking about. Do you experience any of that, like talking to the people in your generation and your peers?
Not really. It doesn't really get that far. They just don't really seem to think it's that important. My one little vote isn't gonna change anything. It's not gonna change anything in my community. It doesn't bother me, so why should I care about it?
Gotcha. What do you have to say about it, Ashante?
I have a lot of things to say about it, actually.
Go for it.
So I've been involved in this type of work for the past like 3 years. And in it, and I'm a researcher at heart. My minor is sociology. So in it, I start to like pay attention to the people that I interact with when I'm doing voter registration, educational seminars, mobilization, etc. when it comes to it. And I'll start with like a personal experience with myself, like me before I got into the work 3 years before today. I think that if I were to have somebody come up to me and say, hey, go vote, without them like convincing me of the many things that somebody has once convinced me to make me think of how important it is to get out the vote, I would be confused and I would walk away and I would say, okay, yeah, I got you. And I just wouldn't do it. And I think in that sense, or the reason why I was like that is because I did not see a clear representation of people in positions or people that were creating policy or people that were in office that were creating change for things that matter to me that looked like me. I didn't see a lot of Black women. I didn't see a lot of, just people that looked like me. Any like queer. I didn't see anyone that just made things that made sense for Ashante. So it made it like I lost the thing of distrust. I didn't have trust for those people. If I did not see a lot of younger Black people in office, if I didn't see a lot of women in office, I was not trusting those people because of what I was raised upon. Like I'm from the Trayvon Martin era, right? So I'm looking at things like those things, right? That's the first case that I could remember as a kid, but I remember like feeling that as a kid and thinking like, who's going to create some change for me and who's going to make a difference? And then when like my family actually threw a party, it might be crazy, but we threw a party thinking that George Zimmerman was going to go to jail, like to watch the case. And then that heartbreak after that of like, okay, it happened again. And then George Floyd, it happened again. Then Breonna Taylor, it happened again. I think that's where you start to like fall out of things, where we aren't seeing anyone that's like our superhero in office, or we're not seeing like complete change when it comes to why we should vote or when it comes to voting. So I think like in planning this seminar that we're doing right now, like we have to get used to understand that they are the why. And when it comes to like why voting is important, they have to find themselves in voting. They have to find themselves in civic engagement. They have to find themselves in social action. They have to find themselves in politics to be able to feel trust with it. Because I don't see anything that's helping Ashante or my family or my cousins or my sisters or my family members that are connected to my family members. Like, I'm not going to feel safe in doing it. So right. I think that it's easier for us to get youth to get involved in these things once they create a trust for the people that are there, one. Because we know that the thing is right now is like, what is it? Policy over people. You know, we're voting on policy over people. But the clear thing is like we as youth, we see people before we see policy. That's so right. We want to see the people that, you know, are attached to the policy that's being pushed. So we need to trust those people. We need to trust that, you know, there's people that are our age and are able to do it. Because I think like when you see like I think it was in Alabama, he was 18 years old as a mayor or something like that. When we see stuff like that, y'all know what I'm talking about though, right? If I said the wrong state.
It might be a different state, but I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. Seeing stuff like that makes me like, okay, so it is possible. It is possible for us to do things like that. Maybe I can. But I think that it's just a disconnect when it comes to not being able to see ourselves in politics, the short end of that, not being able to see ourselves in politics. So it's harder for us to trust politics.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you, and if there are any politicians listening out there, we need more youth outreach groups, and we need, you know, more engagement with the youth so that they actually see the people, see who they can be. And so all the people out there who are in minority communities, marginalized communities, please stand up and let yourself be seen by these young people so that they know that A, somebody that is like them is working for them, but also B, they might want to take the torch from you once you're done in legislation. I think that, so any legislators out there, get on your youth initiatives, please. Okay. All right. Do we have anyone that has any questions? You can we can go ahead. Like I said, if you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. We will be glad to answer questions. So and I'm gonna move on to the next question. Oh, wait,
we do have a question in the chat that actually follows up well to this. This question says, voting, is it time for an upgrade? Do you all foresee voting in the future occurring utilizing cell phones, tablets, etc.? Perhaps if each eligible voting person receive a code per their social security number to vote via cell, etc., maybe that may increase voting rates, especially among the younger voters.
I personally am all for something like that. I think it would be a great thing because, you know, it's all about convenience now, right? But panelists, what do you guys think about it? Who wants to go first? Katura, go for it.
So I actually had a similar question in a panel that I did Friday, and somebody was asking, like, in a perfect world, like, what could we reimagine that? And I radically was thinking that too. I had a conversation with a cousin of mine, and he was like, "Man, cuz we need to vote on the phone," like, kind of a thing, right? And I think in a perfect world, it would be great. Accessibility, especially accessibility, you know, for those, you know, when we think about folks with disabilities. And so like they can get more convenient, or those who are elderly, et cetera, people who are out of town. We have so many different students, you know, they wouldn't have to register wherever they go to school. They can just kind of do it that way.
That's right.
So I think that there are so many ways in which we can increase engagement. It's the problem, I think, is the practicality of it. And the problem is also the elected officials that we have, the congressmen that we have, the representatives, the House, et cetera. So there would have to be an extremely progressive state, or wholly, I'm talking the House, the Senate, everybody has to be on point. And so that right now, I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I'm saying it's going to require a lot of work on our ends as organizers to really push forward that. But we've seen there's so many things that we see everywhere else, you know, like mail-in curbside ballots and all kind of, in DC, you can go just drop it off at a you just go drop it off. So it's like, it's those things that, you know, they can happen. But we also have to just have to think about how can we monitor that, and making sure that people don't abuse that power.
That's right. Yeah. Well. I definitely think that that's one of the issues, the abuse of it, and whether or not, you know, people can hack in and all those things. But there are fail safes for that kind of stuff. So if they put their minds to it and if they do it properly, I feel it's something that we could get going in our country. Ashante, Taryn, you guys have anything to add to that?
I was going to say that was going to be my point, the safety of it all. Like, would it be completely one straight shot to the poll, or did it have to go through any different organizations to get where it needed to go? Because on the phone and straight there is quite a feat. But it would be great for... it would be great for the convenience of it. Because it is sometimes a lot of work to get your vote in, depending on where you are. I know I'm from Texas, and now I'm here in Louisiana, so I have to go vote tomorrow. It's been a lot of work to get there.
Ashante?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's being said. When it comes to like upgrading, voting needs to be upgraded, really.
Yes.
I do agree with that first. And I think that like that idea of like using tablets and phones and stuff would speak to the demographics that have already been mentioned. But of course, like the same things, like we'll have to just work on like what's the safety behind it, the security behind it, because, you know, we got AI going on now. Like, is there, you know, ways that could be messed up or whatever? Because like, I thought the coolest, when I found out about mail-in ballots and absentee ballot, I thought that was the coolest thing ever until like, you know, I heard about what happened yesterday or this morning with the fires in the mailbox, you know, arsons in the mailbox. So I think it is time for upgrade, because every time like a major election comes up, like something is hindering us. Like the last major election, something is happening with the things that create accessibility for voters. we're being oppressed in every type of way, every new type of way. So even if it's not like the utilization of technology, like it needs to be upgraded in some type of way, though. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel as though, like, if they can utilize technology for things like Bitcoin with the blockchain and things of that nature, they can figure out a way for us to count. If they can figure out how to do American Idol votes through the phone, then they can figure out how to get important voting going on, right? All right. So let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit. I know that sometimes, well, a lot of times, we are hard on young people because of who they listen to and who they allow to influence them, whether it be rappers or podcast hosts or friends. These are the people that young people are talking to about politics. Now, these people may not necessarily know what the heck they're talking about when they talk about it, but they're out there running their mouths. We got a lot of podcast hosts, and I want to write to Amazon and have a moratorium on selling microphones because there's too many in rotation right now, and we need to get some of these people quiet. But when you think about people like, Charlemagne, who used to be very against the Democratic Party and everything, and now he's going up against Anderson Cooper, which that's a whole nother issue. And people like Killer Mike, people who have ideas for things, but they may not necessarily be about the people or about getting us free. They have their own agendas and their own ulterior motives when they're talking about politics. So that's why it kind of seems like sometimes they're talking out of both sides of their necks. They are also not necessarily immune to their own internal bigotries, right? Like I've seen a lot of people, D.L. Hughley, when he got up at the Democratic National Convention this year and apologized for being one of those people speaking into a microphone and having influence over literally millions of people and saying things that were incorrect about Vice President Kamala Harris. He got up and was just as loud in his apology as he was in his criticism, which I very much appreciate. But these people that we are listening to may not be versed in politics and may not know what's going on. So, one, we need to make sure that we are telling our youth who are the valid sources to listen to. But speaking of valid sources, our youth also look to our revolutionaries and our Black leaders of the past. There were people, with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Angela Davis and Asada and all of these things. They look to revolutionaries because they are inspired by revolution and social justice movements. It's never really hard to get young people involved in a protest. We'll get you out there in them streets, marching in the streets about Black Lives Matter. We can get you on campus doing an encampment to support Palestinians. But when the excitement dies down, the young people are missing at the ballot box. And the ballot box is where all that change actually happens. So what do you guys think could be done to entice and engage younger people to take control of their government in a more tangible way? We'll go, who we going with first? Let's switch it up. Let's go to Ashante first.
Okay. So let's see. I feel like I have so many things to say, like when it comes to engaging our youth. And I think first, of course, utilizing like those influences, but I think okay, let me start over. I really think that when it comes to getting youth involved in this type of work, creating a safe place for us first is the most important thing. Okay. I'll say from experience, and I'm gonna give her a quick shout out. Katora was my safe space when it came to me learning who I am in this type of work and trying to find my feet on the ground. I knew that if I had a question about anything, I could lean on that adult. I could lean on that older adult because I was an adult at the time too. But I knew that with her experience and the things that she had that was never like, she never held them selfishly. Like anything that she was able to offer to me, I was able to lean on her and receive back. And that made me feel comfortable in the work. That made me feel like I could do anything when it came to advocacy, when it came to social activism, when it came to anything, period. So I think one, like we're the generation of mental health matters. We're the generation of I'm not sitting at a job if I don't feel comfortable. We're the generation of I'm not about to sit and just take anything, because we're just that generation. Like, and I think that comes into play when it comes to politics too. If I don't feel comfortable at the polls, let's be honest, like I'm just gonna click anything to get out of here. You know, if I don't feel comfortable like learning at these educational seminars, I'm just gonna nod my head the entire time and pretend I do it just to get out of here. If I'm failing a class and my teacher's offering bonus points, if I go to this candidates forum, I'm gonna go to it just to go to it, right? But I think the comfort in it, or the thing that makes us like feel comfortable when it comes to politics, is knowing that we can mess up but also be taught too. I feel comfortable making mistakes, but not all of my peers feel comfortable making mistakes. I have like my vice president. I'll shout her out a little bit too. My vice president is a perfectionist. She doesn't want to make mistakes at all. She texted me the entire time she was in the poll, right? But that's a person to lean back on. I saw that I was her safe space, you know, and I never knew. Like they, you know, of course they come to me and ask questions. All my line sisters ask me questions about stuff all the time when it comes to politics. They'll check in with me first. But in that space, I knew for a fact that my line sister, she's my vice president, but she wanted to make sure that she was doing something right, so she leaned on someone. When it comes to politics, we don't like. I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm a history major. I fell in love with history like my senior year of high school when I started to learn about African American history. Couture's uncle was my teacher. And that's crazy. Look at the connection. He was my teacher. And I fell in love with history because of learning about myself in history, and also how easy it was to learn about politics and learn about what happened in the past. But I think that the issue right now, and what I'm seeing with my peers and my age group right now, is that we just don't understand, and we don't feel safe to make mistakes. When it comes to like, you know, and I'll be completely honest too, like thinking, let's stand in like our mental space real quick. As youth, we're college students, we're high school students. All we think about is tests, taking tests and passing those tests. You know, so when it comes to life, like I'm gonna be completely honest, I'm thinking about life as if I'm taking the test. I'm thinking about life as if I have to pass this test. I have to do good on this test because I have to make it to the next checkpoint of my life. So that turns into everything that I do. I have to vote right, because if so and so wins, or if this amendment passes, I'm going to feel like I did not pass that test. You know, I did not pass that test because I voted incorrectly. So I want to make sure I vote the right way. So who can I lean on? What can I lean on? Where can I lean on? Is a thing that I think that will create this place where people feel safe enough to get involved in politics. And I hope I answered that right. I think I kind of went on a tangent.
You did. Well, I actually have a follow-up for you for that.
Okay,
so what makes you feel like the person that you're listening to about politics actually knows what they're talking about, or is that kind of person that can be your safe space, or be a person that you will trust their opinions for you? What makes somebody that for you?
Right. I think the first thing is, like, I know in my heart that anybody I talk to might not be 100% expert on a topic, right? So I have to come in with that mindset, like, okay, she might not know everything. This might be opinion based. This might be subjective. This might not even be like what's really happening in politics right now, but she cares enough to even tell me. She cares enough to even share out. I think like I said, our generation, and Taryn, you could correct me if I'm wrong, we care about care, and we care about our mental health. We care about people pouring into us, caring about us. Hold on, can y'all hear that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, we can hear you, but we don't hear you.
Okay. My hotline blinking. Sorry, guys. But Taryn, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, we care about care. We care about those teachers that pour into us. We care about those mentors that pour into us. So it doesn't even matter if you're telling me the wrong thing, or if you're telling me something that's 100% about you. Like, I could go look it up, and you could tell me that the sky is yellow, and I walk outside and see that it's blue every day. But being that you are taking that time as an adult out of your life, out of your time with your children, out of your time at your job, out of your time with whatever else you have going on, to sit with me and talk to me and pour into me when it comes to politics, because it's that hard for you to understand politics, is the most important thing to us. We just want to feel like we're able to have a seat, to be able to hear what's going on. And I think that that creates that space where I feel safe talking to you. Okay, you're allowing me to talk back to you. Couture allowed me to talk back to her and say, sis, I don't know. And I remember the first time I met Couture, she told me, never say you don't know. Say, I'm gonna find it out and I'm gonna talk to you later. And those type of things just create that space for me. And it made me feel comfortable enough to walk out to this world and even put it in my bio and say that I'm an advocate, I'm an activist, to even feel safe enough to talk to people and say, y'all can come to me to lean on me, because the person I was leaning on might not have known everything, but she tried with me. And that's all youth need right now. Being able to hear that, I know you don't know everything, babe, but come here, let me teach you a little something, even if it's not the correct thing, but even something to pour into us. Because let's be completely honest, like education, like in high school, I didn't get all of that. They went in and went out the other. Like I didn't needed to be taught or was taught in high school. I can't remember all of it. I sometimes I have to look up the branches of government. Like I have to look up these things over and over. So to get like that spotlight again, or get some fire in me again from people, is just what we need to know, that we don't have to be perfect, but somebody is trying to help us. That's it. I'm sorry for talking.
Okay. All right, Taryn, coming to you, since she highlighted how you may or may not feel in agreement with her.
I actually do agree with what she said completely. Okay. Trying to think. I would say maybe more clear information not being completely dropped on at once when it comes to the voting in politics, because one question turns into all the branches and everything, and trying to map out what's happening and why, and who's actually doing what. So just a little basis of information that can be easily accessed and maybe easily explained would be better to get more people actually involved.
Okay, like they say, you can't eat a whole pizza in one bite. You got to slice it up. So you're saying we need to kind of parse it down for people and do it in like bite-sized chunks so that they can handle it when it's given to them.
And yes, and like you said, it can be very overwhelming when you're trying to eat the whole thing at once and figure out what's going on right in front of your face.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot.
All right. Miss Couture.
Yes. First of all, Ashante, girl, you gotta make me cry over here. But thank you so much for and I'm just honored to even be a safe space for you. So, but somebody did it for me. I would say in regards to really like enticing young people to get tapped in. First, I got like 3 points, but I'm gonna run because I know the time. Okay, take time. So entertainers are not the credible messengers, and so we have to understand that they are not the end all be all. They are people just like every last one of us, but a lot of them did not study politics. Now, do I appreciate that they are offering a platform? I do appreciate that. But when we think about the times and who was the credible messengers, it was the activists, it was the organizers, it was people doing the work. But because so many entertainers did break barriers, I think that's where the shift came, because you do have people like your Nina Simone's and your Langston
Diane Carroll's. Yep.
So you do have people that broke through those things because art is an act of protest. I forget who said that. I don't know.
I'll look it up.
But you know who it is. Y'all know who it is. Somebody, a black woman said that, or maybe it was black.
Audre Lorde. Let me see.
Was it Audre Lorde? I feel like it was Audre Lorde or James Baldwin or something. Okay. But the point is, I do understand why entertainers were that. But these line of entertainers, a lot of them did not have to break as many of those barriers. And a lot of them are not owning and really honing in on the idea of activism and art being a form of protest. So that's the difference. Art was a form of protest, and now it's just art. And that's okay. That is amazing, but that's their role. So what we should be doing, I think, is the real influencers, the ones who are doing this kind of work. We just need to tap them into the resources, get them the money and get them the platforms to have, and of course they can sit down with these, folk and educate them is great, but we have to remember that, they aren't. But we can, like I said, we can educate them, but that's what I think about when I think of these entertainers. But I think the other thing is, you talked about, okay, now we outside, we're protesting, we're doing all these things, but where's the follow-up? Where
Right.
is the streamlined process of education to the ballot? So, and I've challenged organizers and activists, et cetera, to help with that process. Like, okay, I saw that you were engaged in this. Let's see how we can transfer that to the ballot box. The follow-up can sometimes even be a dual strategy. You have some people who are going to be the people who are outside. That's why I like to say that we outside. And then you have the people who are supposed to be inside. And sometimes you can't always do both. Sometimes you have to, okay, the first half of the year during legislative session, I'm going to do that. But then the second half, when it's GOTV, I'm going to canvas, I'm going to, et cetera. So you really have to kind of think about, what is my role? And understand that your role is just as important as everybody else's role. Everybody is not supposed to be talking on this panel. Some people need to listen,
Right.
and some people need to execute it. Some people need to be in the chats helping out. I like to tell people all the time, like, when you think about the role of the revolution, like, everybody has a role.
Had a role, that's
The
right.
cook, the person who feeds us, the person who go gets the water, is just as important.
That's right.
As the messenger who's doing, the speech. Is just as important as whoever does my hair.
That's
Like,
right. No, just that's
not gonna
right.
look right, or you're not gonna listen to me. That is just as important. There's gonna be some people who are gonna be protesting, and we need somebody to bail us out. So we need multiple people in those areas. So a dual strategy is also important. But the other part was training up these students, these young people, to be candidates. It's not that when you're running for office, like, what are we talking about? You're talking about, I don't see no representation. It's because you're supposed to be the representation.
Oh,
like that.
And there it is.
Hey, catch it. so understanding that, we can fire them up, but we can also coach them. We can provide safe spaces for young people. But so the thing is, give the real influencers, the real credible messengers, resources, a platform, fire up the students who are engaged, and make sure that we are connecting the dots constantly so that everybody understands the role that they have in this movement.
That's right. Dr. Dennis, do we have any questions?
We do have questions, but before we go into the questions, Ashanti she's pulling double duty tonight, so she has to hop out. So I would like to give her the opportunity to give us any parting words before she leaves, and then we'll go into our questions.
All right.
I'm gonna keep it shorter than what I've been saying tonight. Remain fired up. Katora just used my phrase. That's the NAACP in her. Remain fired up even beyond this election. Continue to empower our youth even beyond this election, because I think we have a great momentum right now when it comes to our youth having eyes on what's going on. We need to keep that momentum going. There's an election December 7th in Louisiana. We need to keep that momentum going for those local elections as well, because it doesn't stop at the presidential election. The things that happen closer to us affect us closer to. So we need to make sure that we're keeping that momentum for every single election, keeping our youth in power for every single election, as well as this was used earlier, passing that torch to our youth and making sure that, hey, I know it, but here, you could take that space. Take space, make space is my saying. Take space, make space for our youth, and make sure that our youth feel safe enough to make space and make noise. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you for being here, Ashanti. So glad that you got to say all of that, because it is important. And I hope any legislators out there, please listen.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you, Ashanti. Thank you so
Thank
much.
y'all.
Thank you. And one of the things she said, every Monday night at 8 o'clock, we have our state NAACP call, and we end every call with fired up and ready to go. If we're fired up and ready to go, so just hearing her say that gets me all fired up even more and ready to go. So as we move into our questions, the next one we have, I've always heard that children are the future and things would be better with generations to come. What is the process to take care of the present to prepare for a better future when it comes to college, when it comes to voting education, voter registration, and mobilization as a college, and particularly as an HBCU student?
So, well, as an HBCU alumni, I will say that one of the things that, wait, repeat the last part of that question, please, Dr. Dennis.
It says, what is the process to take care of the present to prepare for a better future when it comes to voter education, voter registration, and mobilization as a college student, in particular, an HBCU student?
I think with us, the process has to be one, a focus on how important legislation is for the freedoms that we have in this country. Like I personally think reminding people of Black people's history in this country. Like I always tell people at all times, it used to be illegal for us to read. It used to be illegal for us to be able to read. And that, like, I feel that it's something that doesn't resonate enough with people. Like they don't get that legislation is what runs what goes on in this country. It's not what's good, what's right, what's true, what's moral, what's just. It's what's on the books. It's the law. And so if you remind people of what used to be against the law for us to do, then maybe you will, encourage them to take part in shaping the laws of this country. And especially on HBCU campuses, focusing on how the laws affected and oppressed and continue to oppress Black people. I think that's step number one. But I will defer to our panelists to see what they want to say. Ms. Keturah, do you have anything to say on that? I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do, girl.
But yeah,
I love it. I love it.
Cute. So a couple of things. Like I just said, like a duality kind of strategy. There needs to be a long-term strategist or multiple strategists working on that long-term engagement, but there also could be short-term people. So right now, everybody and then sometimes all hands on deck. I think it's great even when you think about a job, like a lot of times, you have your goals, you have your tasks, you have this is what we're going to do. And then you have an end of the year retreat. And it's like, okay, let's prepare for the next year. We're talking about 2025, but we should have been preparing for 2024 elections in 2020. Like we could have.
Hello.
So it's like when we're talking about all these things, it's like, okay, well, we're a little bit late in the game. And so it's like, so I can't even focus on the future because I have so much to do in the present. And I think that the present is just as important. And so, but that's why we need to be continuing to doing these things. Voter registration should not have stopped. We have another election in December. Voter registration should never stop, really, to be honest.
That part.
Civic engagement should never stop. We can't just throw it at people when it's time, because it might be too late. So it's like, it's constant. Preparation is constant when we're talking about the civic engagement process. But also as a HBCU graduate myself, we got to tap into the culture. I literally was just talking the other day with some students at Howard and, just other, all over the place. And one of the things that I really wanted to stress, okay, if we know it's homecoming, maybe we shouldn't do the event on Saturday because ain't nobody trying to hear that on Saturday. They're not trying to hear it. I'm not trying to hear it. They're not trying to hear it. Let's leave the students.
They're probably not able to hear it because they may be inebriated.
They won't even hear you, and you're just gonna mess everybody up. We got to talk that. But we could probably do some sort of a luncheon on Sunday prior to. Or we can do something on Tuesday, etc. Like there's ways to really engage, but you have to think about the culture. So the culture of the HBCU, even the reason why we had to have HBCUs for us by us anyway. Like tap into that and make sure we're highlighting that, that piece of history, but also moving forward in that sense. And so just kind of thinking about, okay, we know Southern University, y'all do, I think it's Pretty Wednesdays. In my school, we got a What's Up Wednesdays, Fried Chicken Wednesday, etc. So I know everybody gonna be there at What's Up Wednesdays. I'm gonna set up a table. Because I'm already preparing. I already know what's gonna go down at my school. So let me prepare to do something to engage in people. And that's how we did the event where I met Michelle the other day, because we did I think it was a Yards to the Polls tailgating party. And it wasn't, it wasn't during homecoming, but it was during a decent game where we can get a decent crowd. We were already having Black and Brown voter registration day. So I'm like, you know what? And reading the room, okay, what do people like? Free stuff. So we're gonna make sure we can sign these students up to be poll monitors for $50. Like that's something we know they need money in their pockets. I know they do. So let's get them that. Okay, water bottles, shirts, bags. These are things that people need as college students. They ain't got enough. A lot of them just might not have it. So I know I didn't all the time. So making sure that, they're getting what I didn't get when I was an HBCU student, though, that's how we need to be thinking. And there was even one time when I was at Albany State, where there are a couple of schools in Georgia, and there was something going on with like legislation, and it's always something going on with money. We're trying to save the HBCUs. We were going to those meetings, etc. And so me being a student at the time, and I was like NAACP president, I'm like, okay, so I have to use my voice to advocate for my school's sake and for the resources' sake, and really hold my elected officials accountable, especially the ones who did not ever attend an HBCU, or especially not mine. So it's like thinking about all of those things. It's tapping into the culture. Tap into the culture, and always have that dual long-term and short-term strategy.
Okay. All right. Taryn, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm sorry, I might have lost the original
question. Michelle, can you read the question one more time?
Sure. So the original question: what is the process to take care of the president to prepare for a better future when it comes to voting, education, voter registration, and mobilization as a college student, especially as an HBCU student?
So basically, what would get you to get motivated as an HBCU student, and what process would be beneficial for you in getting people engaged in voting? And you yourself as an HBCU student, what things would you suggest, or what things would you want to see to engage HBCU students in voter registration, voter participation, etc.?
I think if we change the narrative of voting, I'm sorry, one moment. I apologize.
No worries. Taryn got to go calm the people down in his house.
They fired up. They ready
to go. They ready to go.
While he's taming his background, we have a statement in here that I will read, and Taryn will cut back to you. This one just says, in Oregon, there was no in-person voting. Ballots were mailed to all the registered voters. You were also automatically registered when you went for your ID or your driver's license. There are models to study for convenience, even if we never get to mobile voting. So that was just a comment in the chat.
Yes. Thank you for leaving that comment. Yes. Great. All right, Taryn, back to you.
Well, sorry, that did sound like a great idea. It would make a lot of things a lot easier. But what I was going to say would make it more, I would say, less boring and less interesting for the younger generation, would be to make it less like, oh, politics. It can be making your voice heard for your future. It doesn't have to be so, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the word, so uniform. It can be more relaxed. It doesn't, like you said, on Saturday, they wanted to have a voter function for voters and getting the word out. And the Sunday idea was good, but it doesn't have to be so calm. It can be a fun thing. It can be lively.
Okay, so you're saying take some of the formality out of it and all of the seriousness out of it and pour a little fun in there, and that would be part of the process. Got it. All right, that's what's up. Okay, now earlier we were talking about people who were not may not be qualified to speak on politics because of their own internal bigotries like racism, sexism, etc. Now with Kamala Harris becoming the candidate, she has had to face racism and sexism from all sides, even her own communities. So let's focus on the Black community though, because that's what we have the right to speak on. Since 2018, the gender gap in voting for progressive politics between Black women and Black men has grown from 2% to 15%, and it's ever growing still. In addition to that, the gap between Black women and Black men voting at all has steadily remained between 7 to 10 percentage point difference, with Black women being 7 to 10 percentage points ahead of Black men. And Black women being ahead of Black men. So why do you guys think that the gender gap like this exists in the Black community?
I want the Black man to go first.
I was about to say, yeah, we don't let the Black man go first. And then we're gonna tear down his argument. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Taryn. I'm kidding. Go for it.
I could say a couple reasons I may feel, but one reason I would like to start with, I think Black women are more involved with politics and things that are going on in our community because they affect them a lot more and a lot harder in ways that Black men just sometimes aren't aware of. There's a lot of things that are going on with laws and things that are allowed and what can and can't be done.
You getting them together. I appreciate it.
Sorry.
No worries.
That's what I was saying. Yes,
So you were saying that basically y'all are kind of protected by patriarchy from the certain issues, and you don't even have to think about it.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for bringing me back.
No.
Yeah, some things just aren't on our radar at all. And halfway it's because they don't affect us personally, medically, emotionally, but they don't ask the Black woman the question. And sometimes I'm not going to say they don't. I'm sure that they're very vocal about it. And in the polls and everything. My grandma is one of those people. She is very, very, she's on me. She's texting my phone as we speak. Did I go vote? I'm in trouble.
That's right. And that's how it should be.
I can't really speak to why I feel, it might be lacking on the male side, but I know that the Black woman is pulling us along. I know it.
Yeah. All right. Well, at least you know it. And I will say that earlier last week, Michelle Obama actually had a great speech that she gave at one of Kamala Harris's rallies, where she was imploring Black men to take our lives seriously. If you love Black women, if there are Black women in your life that you care about, our lives are literally on the line and at stake with what the Republican Party and this Project 2025 mess that they're trying to implement legally into our legislature. Our lives are on the line. So she gave out the edict and begging, please take our lives seriously. Keturah, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, because I have so many thoughts. So when we think about this gap, a couple things. Black women are, of course, the most educated. That's just fact. That's just statistics.
Yeah, that's just statistics.
Right? It's just
not a brag.
Not a brag.
A little bit of a brag, but
a little bit. Hey, Black women. So we are the most educated, which is evident when it's spilling over to even understanding what's on the ballot, because the ballot, the convoluted messaging, etc. So the lack of education for anyone might have you kind of not even wanting to vote, or even when you're kind of voting, it might not necessarily even be something, especially when it comes to amendments, that might not even be something that you really wanted, but it's how they worded it that they kind of tricked you a little bit. So even more specifically, thinking about the attack, there are plenty of attacks on Black people in general, especially Black women. But there is also a distinct physical attack on Black men, which is more prevalent when you think about things like the school to prison pipelines, mass incarcerations, police brutality, etc., which also strips their opportunity to vote when they are incarcerated. Thinking about Louisiana being one of the most incarcerated states in, you know, the country, them even being on a plantation and ain't going. It's so many different things that I'm thinking about that attack to really round up our Black men and putting them in these so many different things, like when we think about the physical attack on Black men. So I think when we think about that, they don't even have the opportunity. It's like them battling all of these things when we're even able, while we are battling things, it's like it's a level of mentorship and love and power that we sometimes still just receive because we are women. And so these are some of the things that I kind of think about. But also like just I think a lot of times Black men are not always able to identify with politics. Hence the importance of representation. Like that is so important, because if they don't have representation or they don't even see a platform to really identify with, that's why coming up with a platform for Black men is so important, because that I've never even really seen that be so specific for a group of people. Often they don't often really do that. And so even like politicians making sure that Black men are just as equally centered as Black women, I think is important for them to see that representation. What I would like to see is more mentorship. Something that I've seen in the past with like Southern, especially those SGA presidents, I've seen I've been like some sort of, they have like a pipeline going with elected officials and they going to the Capitol and they got a pipeline going. And I just never have really truly seen that so eloquently. Like I just haven't seen it. And so that's something we can kind of start replicating that. And it doesn't have to be because you're an SGA president. You could just be a criminal justice chair. You could be a political science. You could just be in an organization, a fraternity, etc. So it's like we can kind of make more pipelines instead of the mass incarceration or school to prison pipeline. We gotta reimagine what a pipeline for a Black man can look like and supporting Black men to do that. And one more thing, because I want to hold us all accountable with this statement. We have to bring more Black men into these rooms with us. I used to go to a high school, and I would kind of sit down with students. And so I used to do that when I was working with Black women. I had this BVM Youth Alliance kind of a thing. And so I'm still doing that work, obviously. But one of the things that I remember, the person who helped me put that together, he was like, yeah, so what we gonna do is we gonna have, it used to be just girls, right? He's like, we're gonna bring the girls and then the men gonna, the boys gonna wanna come, right? And I understand that logic. Yeah, they gonna come because the girl's gonna be there, right? I understand that. But why couldn't we just pour into the young Black boys, like in the beginning? They didn't have to be an afterthought. Too many times Black men are an afterthought, and that is so unfair. So I know I'm Black Women's Roundtable, but I love some Black men. We need to stop making sure, we need to make sure that they are not an afterthought when we think about policy, when we think about education, when we think about love and vulnerability and affirmations, all of the same
health,
things.
all of it.
All of the things that we are doing for ourselves actively, and we're like, yeah, we need to go mentor these little girls. We need to mentor these young Black men because they don't have it all the time, and they're an afterthought. And if I see that they're an afterthought, imagine what their subconscious minds are doing and why they might even, act out because of these things. Because if we're not showing attention, then okay, I'm gonna get it in maybe the worst of ways or whatever the case. There's so many different things in addition to the attacks that they're already getting on top of us not always loving them as much and pouring to them as much. So we need to center Black men more. They are not an afterthought. You are not an afterthought, Taryn.
You're not an afterthought, Taryn. And one of the things, what we were talking about earlier, one of the things that I had to check myself on this, right? Like when the Black men were going against Kamala and saying all these things. And when she released that plan, the plan for Black men, as somebody who's tapped into politics, I know good and well that number one, it's unconstitutional to say that you're going to do something for one specific group in this country based on their gender or based on their race. So even if she said, this is a program I'm starting for Black men, it would be challenged in the court system right out of the gate. So that's one thing that we had to remember. And, you know, like I said, knowing that, I'm like, she can't even say that, da, 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 da. But then when she put the plan out, I had to check myself, and I was like, because at the end of the day, the way the law will be written will not exclude anyone else, but she had to put together basically a bullet point sheet that let Black men know these are the things that I'm doing, and your community is the community that is going to benefit the most from it. So it's all about the wording, and it's all about how you present these things. Because again, it's illegal. It's illegal for her to say this is going to be just for Black men or just for Black women or just for Latinos. But when she puts it in a bullet point and says, this is my plan for you, and these are the things that I'm doing that will benefit you, then they seem to be a little satiated with. Some of them were like, too little, too late. And I was like, you're just an idiot anyway. But, you know, we're here to uplift. We're here to uplift the Black men. So I'm not going to harp too much on that. Dr. Dennis, did we have any more questions?
Yes, we do. And I want to add, as we talk just a little bit about the Black women in leading, one of the things I think that goes back that's so much a part of our culture is that we always talk about that women, we have the responsibility to lead with the Lord and lead in faith and leading all those things. And somehow voting got wrapped up into that. And so that's one of the things when you think about overall, even going back to Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and all of those things, some sort of way. And I believe in the same thing. There's nothing that I love more than a group of Black men working for a cause.
That's right.
A group of Black men working for a cause for good. I love to see it, but also that I believe that it's just historically rooted in the fact that we've just always been trained to kind of do what we need to do to get things done. So I wanted to kind of close with that. We'll kind of add that little bit as we move into our next question. And we have a question here, and then we also have a hand raised in the audience. But this one says, I'm an educator and a supervisor in a school district. How can we as educators assist in this endeavor?
Ooh, and that starts in the classroom with teaching civics, honestly, and breaking down the three-party system is what I would say, because the way we vote is not the way our government runs. We vote, the majority of people show up every 4 years for the presidential election, but the president is the most popular with the least power. Our Congress is where the crux of our power lies. And so with the House and the Senate, we need to increase people's awareness of what goes on, not just federally, not just on Capitol Hill, but in our state houses, in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. And I think as an educator, if there's any way you can tie those kinds of things into your lesson, tie in the three branches of government, how the president has the most popularity, but the least power. The judicial branch is not even a branch we can vote on, but they have the most power because the buck stops with them. Anything that is challenged legally, they have the last final say so on it until it gets challenged and challenged again. But the judicial branch is a branch we don't even vote on, but the president is the one who appoints those people. So the president has the power to appoint the most powerful people, but the president is not the most powerful person, if that makes any sense. And then the Senate and the House, that is where all of the power of our lawmaking lies. And so I think encouraging people to understand the three branches of government first, I think that's what helps in the classrooms. But I'll defer to our panel to see if there's anything they have to add to that. Go ahead, go for it, Katora.
Yeah, so there are a couple of ways that I think that educators can engage and just kind of help. There are so many different unions, the National Education Association, that is one of the largest, I think, period. And even kind of working with those organizations, they have so much influence in in policy and like really shaping foreign policy. I really think that educators helping us lead in these rooms or leading yourselves in these rooms. So when there is legislative session, you might not be able to go because you're at school, but you can help go to those planning meetings with us so we can understand the practicality of some of the bills that even our elected officials are pushing, because there are some things that we are like, oh, that sounds great. And then you'll be like, okay, yeah, but that's not really how the classroom works. And so like us not even having those conversations, but there's a whole education committee, but I don't even know, and maybe some of them could have been educators, but I don't even know how many of them are educators, but they're making decisions for educators and for our children. And so we need to kind of be thinking about that's where we can really use that help in that advocacy. That's where that advocacy piece kind of comes from. I would love to see educators come up with their own agenda for legislative sessions. Like I need to see I'm gonna write that down. Hold up, because we work on that. The educators when it comes back around, because that's just as important. And understanding that education also seeps into things like health. It seeps into things like the digital divide and all of when COVID happened, CARES Act, all of those things, that is education. The well-being of children, that is education as well. So even reimagining what our idea of as an educator is. I also think the other part becomes leaning into your own level of expertise to help us. So example, I shared earlier that my new job as the training and campaign manager for the youth and college division of the NAACP. I'm going to be training a lot of kids, right? But as an educator, you know how to educate kids. Like, you know what kind of tools and ways in which I can really pour into it to the point where they're going to understand what I'm saying. So it's like, as an educator, you know how to teach people, and it doesn't really, the topic doesn't really even matter, because you know how to teach kids and you know what they're gonna, be receptive to. And so even me understanding, or how do you even create a curriculum, something that she was on the call, Omari saying, we had a Freedom School, Black August Freedom Schools, and we were creating curriculums and stuff, and we were, looking at other curriculums from like Beacons of Defense or somebody, Black August Revolutionary, all these different things. And so like, I think even taking, those kind of templates and helping us plug that into the work that we are doing can also really help. And thank you.
Right.
We need that representation as educators as well. Well, I'm not an educator, but something like that.
All right, Taryn, I know you have to leave us as well. You have another meeting to go to. So you can give us your final thoughts and then we will release you.
No, it's no releasing. I would love to stay. This is a great conversation. I've had a great time talking with you all. These have been some great points and ideas. And I love this. I feel this should happen more, maybe alive in a auditorium on campus. I don't know where everyone's located, but if we could do something like this on Southern's campus, I think that would be a great thing.
Maybe we'll have to get it done before the vote for December 7th to get people out there to get these amendments together, huh?
I feel that could be something we could do.
Okay.
Very, very soon. We should.
All right, Beta Sig, y'all get it together.
We will. We're gonna work on that. I don't really have, everything that's been said has been great. I really don't have any thoughts. It was just great. I was happy to listen.
Well, thank you
I
so much for
appreciate y'all
joining.
for asking me.
Oh, well, we appreciate you giving us your insight and participating, sir.
Well, I thank y'all, and y'all have a great talk. I hope to join y'all again soon.
All right.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too. All right. Now, Dr. Dennis, I think you said there was one more statement that we had left in the chat. Do we still have that? Oh, I think we might have.
It's actually a question, and it is from Soror Kendra Lamont Mathis. If you're still available, Kendra, I'm sorry. If you're still available, do you want to ask your question?
Hello, I'm sorry, I didn't have a question. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Well, Kel, it's back to you.
All right. Well, I think we're about at our time. So Keturah, I will let you give your final thoughts as well, and then we'll close out.
All righty. Well, first, I just want to thank you all for having me once again. I'm so excited to be working with y'all. A few of my aunts and family and stuff, they are Deltas as well. So I know they are on here. They have been supporting me. So shout out to them and the rest of my family and whoever else is on here as well. My mom, my aunties, my colleagues, etc. So thank you all for joining too. I think this was a great conversation, especially having, the young people there got me fired up. I know they got y'all fired up. And so really, I just want to, just proceed to that call to action, remembering go vote. You got until tomorrow to early vote. Do not be late. I'm going tomorrow, my last day. And really just continue to pay attention to, those elected officials, especially those local levels. We have so many, we got the judge, we got judges, city constable, metro council, mayor, of course, president, congressional district. We have so many things on the ballot. So really, I'm just always gonna encourage everybody to look and see who's doing what their platforms are, who has shown up in the past and who has not. Let that be, your guide to how you vote. Of course, we have some things coming up with Black Women's Roundtable, which I could just share with you all, some last minute phone banking activities. It's going to be virtual. We are going to have something in person in New Orleans, but I know my job is shipping me off to Georgia. Battleground is getting real, y'all.
It's real, baby.
So, but I'm a Georgia girl too at heart, so it's all right. So I won't be able to do anything in the physical, but we will be, making sure that we're continuing to uplift, whatever it is Ashante when she call, I just come. So whatever it is that she's doing, whatever it is that you all are still doing, we're more than happy to support. And we have some resources to really do so. But also really, I'm already thinking about December. So this is about almost over. It's not over until, November 5th. That's when it ends. But, we have a lot to collaborate on. So I'll be happy to send it to you all. So whoever is on the email attendee list, so y'all can have that. And just thank you all once again. Louisiana Black Women's Roundtable is a newer organization. We're still channeling it up and, getting all together. So hopefully, when we have our more official kind of, not like kind of like an interest meeting in a sense, just for whoever's interested to joining us, definitely will make sure that you all are the first ones to call. So thank you for having me. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who logged on. Thank you to anybody who asked questions, for participating, and for being involved in your government. Because as I said before, this is our government and we are in charge of the people who make the laws, who run our lives. But if you don't show up, you don't have a say. Once again, my name is Kelly Knighton Huff. I am the creator of Vote Ho, which is a civic engagement initiative that I started on social media. And if you would like any more voter resources, you can go to voteho.org. Here's the name right here. Voteho.org, and go to the important links tab, and it will get you to anything that you need as far as voter resources. Once again, thank you to Keturah, thank you to Ashanti, thank you to Taryn, and thank you to Dr. Dennis for having us here for this panel. It was wonderful and great, and I appreciate everyone that participated. I'll let you close us. Well, should I close us out, or do you want to close us out, Dr. Dennis?
Well, no, I just want to thank you all, everyone, to Ashanti, to Taryn, Keturah, even more in love and passionate with the work that you're doing. Kelly, always keeping us in line and keeping us in check. So I want to thank you all for this very important discussion and raising the awareness as we get close. One of the things that we talked about, even in voting, and Keturah, I love that you said looking forward to December the 7th and all of those things, because we know that there are going to be runoffs. And the important thing about making sure that we get everyone out to vote, everybody says, this state is this color, this state. And I must say again that Delta Sigma Theta Sorority does not endorse any candidate. While we were able to address different platforms and policies, we are not endorsing any candidates here. in this event or any other event. We are just giving you and providing you with the information that's available to you. But one of the things that we want to make sure that you all are getting out to vote. But what happens is when we have low voter turnout is nobody wins. Okay, nobody wins. So the person at the top isn't necessarily the person that you want, but you're not thinking about the people that are going to affect your everyday lives. Those are your city council people, your judges, your congressional representation. Those are the seats that we need filled. So when you don't vote, when we have the voter percentage that we have going now, if you all keep it up, and I'm not saying, because I know everybody on this screen is responsible. When we started talking about this date, Kel was like, let me get my mail-in ballot. Let me make sure I'm ready. So I know that everyone on here, that you all have voted or have a plan to vote. But for those who you're not sure about, talk to them, make those personal connections, make sure that they are voting and have a plan to vote, and make sure that 10 people around them have a plan to vote. Because when we don't have the turnout that we need, everybody loses. Everybody loses. And if you don't realize that, just think back to what happened this time last year when only 29% of eligible Black voters in Louisiana showed up at the polls. So with that being said, we want to remind everybody, as we've been saying for Baton Rouge Sigma this election season, as we'll continue to say, make sure that you push the button.
That's
okay?
right. Push the
Make
button.
sure that you're pushing the button each and every time. It's not this election, that election. Every time there's something on the ballot, even if there's just one thing, please make sure you vote. So, our President, I'll leave it to you to close us out. And thank you all for joining us.
I will say this has been a very delightful and informative discussion. I am ecstatic about our young people. I know that our future is bright. Their professionalism and knowledge and wisdom imparted this evening has been phenomenal. Thank you, Kelly, for your leadership in leading this conversation. Katara, for all of the words that you said. Taryn and Ashanti, in your absence, thank you all also for representing your organizations and doing a great job and being the leaders that you are at the Southern University A&M College. We look forward to the leadership that you all provide and continued collaboration with all of you as we move forward through this election and future elections, because we know that all elections matter. Thank you so much.